Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, worshippers of all ages, welcome back to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're continuing our look at ranked recommendations for the upcoming season, here starting in just a couple of days, going through cruiser picks today. So like we do, we're going to talk through some cruisers I would highly suggest, I would encourage you to play, some ones that maybe have some flaws or some weaknesses, but you would be well served to play, and then some picks that I would probably just, I would leave in your port and pick something else. So let's get to it. Starting off first on the list here, this is Tier 8 Tech Tree American Cruiser, USS Baltimore. If you've hung around the channel a while, you probably saw this one coming. This is my homer pick. I freaking loved playing Baltimore in the most recent Tier 8 ranked sprint season we had just a few weeks ago. She brings a lot of utility, including really good anti-aircraft, long-range and long-duration radar, those super heavy American piercing shells, and bow armor that cannot be overmatched by fully half of the battleships in the tier. Yes, you heard that right. There are 16 Tier 8 battleships in World of Warships, and 8 of them mount 15-inch guns that cannot overmatch Baltimore's 27mm bow armor. If she had torpedoes, this ship would be damn near perfect. As it is, she's merely very, very good. I will say that there's likely to be a bit of a learning curve with a ship like Baltimore. Learning where to place this ship, depending on where you spawn on each map, is half the war. But once you're comfortable with that, you've got it made, and this is a really, really solid pick. Moving on, let's talk about Tier 8 British cruiser HMS Edinburgh. Now let's be clear here. I am specifically recommending Radar Edinburgh, and Radar Edinburgh is not for everybody. In fact, I'll go so far as to say that if you don't consider yourself a very good cruiser player, that this may not be the pick for you. If, however, you're comfortable with your cruiser skills, your understanding of ship placement and radar ranges, bounce angles, and all that sort of thing, then Radar Edinburgh is incredibly rewarding. She has all the tools to bully cruisers of all classes and murderizes destroyers like nobody's business. Similar to Tier 8 Russian cruiser Chapayev, she can quote-unquote stealth radar. That is to say, if she's spotted on the surface, then whatever is spotting her is well already inside her radar range. She also gets that ridiculous British cruiser heel to go with 10-kilometer torpedoes. There's a lot to like here, guys. Now, I'm recommending Radar Edinburgh. Smoke Edinburgh comes with a different set of caveats that I'm not going to get into here. If you want, we can talk about it in the comments. I would not necessarily recommend Smoke Edinburgh. Last recommended pick is pretty easy. You probably saw this one coming. This is Tier 8 American cruiser USS Cleveland. This will not surprise veterans of the game. Cleveland, after all, is another radar-like cruiser, but frankly, she's easier to play than Edinburgh. She comes with fewer tricks, right? She has no heel, no torpedoes, but she does get better armor to go with her hydro, defensive fire, and, of course, radar. As far as destroyer hunters go, it really doesn't get much better than Cleveland. There are, of course, some caveats, right? You really do need a high skill point captain to maximize this ship, preferably one that can take both IFHE and concealment expert at tier 4 to go, level 4 to go with whatever level 3 skills you want to mix in. Additionally, Cleveland isn't the best handling cruiser in the tier. She's slow off the mark and handles like a pig at slow speeds. So, like her heavy cruiser cousin, we talked about a few moments ago, positioning this ship well is key to getting good matches out of her. And that may take some trial and error, so just kind of have some patience those first few games, right? Still, Cleveland has a great array of tools at her disposal to contribute to any ranked team that she finds herself on. Moving on to the honorable mentions, we're going to start off with Tier 8 Premium Japanese cruiser Atago. Atago remains the only ship I've ever actually ranked out in, way back in Season 4. The same things that made her good then still apply today. She has amazing stealth, a great main battery for slapping around destroyers and burning battleships down, oodles of 10-kilometer Japanese torpedoes that hit like trucks, and access to the repair party consumable. More than once, I have used my Atago like a destroyer to sneak a cap point when an enemy team wasn't looking in a ranked game. Atago's main shortcoming is that she hates airplanes. I mean, absolutely hates them. Not only does she have no AA to speak of, her stealth is one of her main assets, and enemy aircraft take that away from her. If you're willing to be patient enough to Q-dodge carriers, then Atago gets a hearty thumbs up. By Q-dodge, I mean You will not, when you queue up in the Atago, if you see a carrier in the queue, you immediately bail out and you just keep playing that little game until there's no carriers in the queue. Okay? If you don't have that kind of patience, then just know going in that you're rolling the dice on your effectiveness if Matchmaker puts you into a game with an aircraft carrier. Next on the list, Tier 8 Premium German Cruiser Prinz Eugen. The Admiral Hipper class ships have had an up and down history in World of Warships. Even Prinz Eugen here didn't really come into her own until they buffed her by giving her access to the repair party consumable. Once they did, though, this ship became highly competitive in these kinds of modes overnight. Eugen has a huge health pool to go with her repair party. She gets to choose between defensive fire or that sweet German hydro, which is a pretty solid AA suite, and she has an excellent mid and close range armor scheme. Notice the note there about mid and close range armor scheme. German armor schemes on these cruisers tend to be weak at long range. The key to maximizing this ship's effectiveness in a ranked battle is to play cautious early on, but not so cautiously nor so far back from the front lines that her big opportunity to impact the battle is missed. Eugen loves to brawl, but charging headfirst into a pile of enemy ships remains just as easy a way to die in ranked as it does in randoms. However, Eugen is a ship that can handle itself on detached duty or to push a camping battleship out of the way in the mid-game. Just like Baltimore, her 27mm bow armor means that fully half the battleships in the tier cannot overmatch her bow. Early games in this ship will be slow, methodical affairs, but once ships start dying and the board begins to thin a bit, she can start looking to make a big play or secure a key kill that paves the way to a win. Last in this category, let's talk about Tier 8 Russian cruiser Chapayev. We've already hit two other radar light cruisers in HMS Edinburgh and USS Cleveland, and now it's the Soviets' turn to get in on the action. Chapayev misses out on a recommendation because, honestly, she's more challenging to play, more fragile with less utility. She can still be very, very effective, and I would not discourage captains with sufficient experience in her from dusting her off and playing her in ranked, but know going in that this is kind of radar cruiser on hard mode. Chapayev is fragile with mediocre AA, meaning she's going to draw the attention of enemy battleships and carriers. If she hangs far enough back from the action, then she can stay in a game for a good long while, but that reduces the impact of her 12-kilometer radar, so it's a fine line to walk, finding that balance point between how far forward do I play, how far back do I play, is the key. Her main battery is very, very good. It's her handling and armor scheme that provide all the extra challenge you need. Still, no destroyer player wants to see one of these on the enemy team, and that alone makes her worthy of a look when grabbing a ship for a ranked session. What Tier 8 cruisers should you avoid? What should we absolutely just not be talking about? Well, this first pick is super easy. This is Tier 8 Premium British Cruiser HMS Cheshire. Cheshire is probably in the running for the worst Tier 8 cruiser in the game, so it shouldn't come as any surprise that I highly recommend you avoid this ship. She suffers from a severe lack of damage output in all fronts. The rate of fire on her main battery is terrible, and she only has 6 barrels. To add insult to injury, her torpedoes only reach out to 8 kilometers, where all other British cruisers at this tier get 10-kilometer torpedoes. Her A is decent, and her survivability that's a mixed bag. She has the same fancy British cruiser heel as Edinburgh does, but she's more vulnerable to getting slapped off the board in a single salvo due to how her citadel is shaped. Now, Cheshire is basically the same hull as Tier 8 HMS Albemarle over in the tech tree, just with different main battery guns. But the thing that keeps Albemarle off this list is that her main battery is useful and has some things about it that I quite like. She wouldn't be a great pick, but she isn't necessarily a bad one. Cheshire here, unfortunately, is a bad one. Avoid her. And last, we have to talk about Tier 8 Premium Pan-Asian Cruiser KRI Irian. I always seem to have at least one painful pick in the avoid category, and it comes here with Irian. I actually quite like this ship. You don't see too many of them out and about, but for randoms, they're a lot of fun to play. Sadly, that fun is not likely to translate into ranked success. Irian is basically the same ship as Tier 8 Premium Russian Cruiser Mikhail Kutuzov. The trick is that she retains all of Kutuzov's fragility, but loses all of Kutuzov's range and smoke generator. Irian's AA is pretty serviceable, and she does come with hydro on top of her super trolly long-range deepwater torpedoes. But she's essentially an open water HE spammer, highly likely to get focused down by enemy fire or airplanes, or both. There are a lot of good Tier 8 cruisers for your ranked grind, but I just don't feel like Irian measures up to be one of them. Anyway, guys, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. We've got still got some more recommendations coming on battleships and carriers. In the meantime, be safe, wash your hands, and I'll catch you next time.